Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. I'm Ryan Boland. Thank you all for joining me. So, legendary comedian John Cleese, Cleese, made some astonishing comparisons between dictator Hitler and Trump. You probably knew that was coming, yeah. And he gave like 5 or 6 reasons why Trump is preferable to Hitler. Okay, so I'm going to get right into this article because clearly he's trolling. But I'm going to get into this article and I'm going to give you my reasons why I believe there's this comparison by the political left of Hitler and Trump. What's up with accusing Trump of being another Hitler? Are there any similarities there? Because this is constantly pushed by the political left. Everybody knows that has eyes to see and a brain to think. This is constantly pushed by the political left. But the question is why? And is it accurate? Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this article and I'm going to give you my opinions. And I'm going to also suggest a book that you guys look into that really breaks down this whole idea of the political right being like Hitler and like a bunch of Nazis. Okay. So let's get right into this. Yeah. And I think that he's trolling, but comic legend John Cleese appeared to troll everyone with an outlandish, over-the-top comparison between former President Donald Trump and genocidal dictator Adolf Hitler, as media pundits and even Democratic politicians make similar comparisons. Yes, they do. They do. That's not an opinion. They have been doing that for quite some time. In the next post on Tuesday, the former Monty Python member, and some of you may or may not have heard of John Cleese. I barely recognize this guy, right? I mean, when I looked at the article, I saw his name in the article and saw his face. I'm like, who in the world is that? And then when they mentioned Monty Python, I was like, okay, I remember him now. He's obviously older, but I'm like, okay, I remember this guy now. I've seen some of the Monty Python movies and so forth. They were funny, woo, 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 woo. Okay, I get it. Okay, yeah. It's interesting how these people that you don't know much, you've kind of like forgotten even exist, all of a sudden pop out of nowhere and start making these weird statements. But anyway, the former Mighty Python member listed the many so-called positive qualities about Hitler, which included his love of dogs and ability to write his own books. Okay, so that would mean maybe that I'm a Nazi because I love dogs, and I have the ability to write my own books. I'm not bragging, but I wrote 3 full-length novels, 2 novellas, dozens of short stories. Yeah, I could go into that. I have that ability, and I'm pretty good at it. So I must be a Nazi, right? I don't know. Anyway, Cleese even went so far as to list 6, not just 5, supposedly wonderful qualities about Hitler, which included the following. Number 1, he fought for his country. Number 2, he never used a teleprompter. Number 3, he was nice to dogs. Number 4, he wrote his own books, just mentioned. Number 5, he never played golf. And number 6, he wasn't a big fat slob. Okay. When it came to Trump, Cleese could only find 2 positives. He doesn't practice genocide, and he has nicer hair. He doesn't practice genocide, and he has nicer hair. But how is that any comparison? It's just really silly. So here's what happens. So he's getting some backlash for this, obviously. But I'm going to read some of these quotes. But I'm going to read more of the article. It says, while Cleese did not clarify exactly who he meant to troll with the post, he certainly indicated that he meant it as a troll and scolded several people for taking it literally. Trump is a better human being than Hitler. Will you be able to sleep now? He said to one commentator. Some people think it was funny and not true, he said to another. Let me read you some of these. Let me read you some of the responses. John Cleese said also, he says, don't hold your breath. Receiving insults from the literal-minded is like being booed by a flock of sheep. You know, that's in response to him, to the other person posting, some people think it was funny and not true. Okay. It's like, well, you taking it literally. You like, John Cleese says, because I've never tried to amuse the simple-minded. There are plenty of comics who do, and you will enjoy them. Being sarcastic here, he says. And he says, back in the day when you had a sense of humor, perhaps. And that's basically the end of that article there. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simplistic, right? But clearly, this comedian, John Cleese, he's trolling. And, you know, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you can only find 2 positives with Trump, supposedly, and 5 positives with Hitler. The question, though, is why is there such a comparison? Why is there constantly a comparison, as I said in the introduction of this video, of Trump and Hitler? Why is there so much a comparison there? What's going on here? And I'm going to give you my reason. I think, number one, it's once again a form of mind control. There isn't any solid evidence whatsoever to support the idea that Trump is another Hitler. However, if you continuously on the mainstream news and in the schools push this idea that Trump is another Hitler and that those that are on the left, political left, are Nazis, and you continuously push this and continuously push this over and over and over again, the people on a subconscious level, okay, are going to start to believe it, even though there is no empirical evidence to prove it whatsoever. It's mind control. People that talk this way, or politicians that talk this way, rather, and academia that talk this way, are experts in mind control, the way I see it. They're good at manipulating people psychologically with words. As one particular commentator said, and researcher said, we are not in a physical war here in America. We are in an information war. This is a psyops, a psychological psyops of the mind, of the brain. It's all about information and the kind of information and the way that information is spun to the masses. I could get you to believe anything if I talk about it enough. In fact, Hitler said these words, and I'm paraphrasing his words. He wrote a book, and it was called Mein Kampf. And in the book, Hitler stated that if you tell a lie enough and repeat it enough, the people will believe it. Hitler said that. I didn't say it. I'm just quoting his words from his book, Mein Kampf. He said, if you repeat a lie enough, people will believe it. He knows it's a lie. But he also understands propaganda. He also understood, rather, propaganda and mind control. I'm not going to go into the detail of the Nazis because it's really pure evil and demonic in a literal sense. Okay, but he understood. In fact, he understood mind control. And in fact, Hitler hired a minister of propaganda by the name of Joseph Goebbels. And Joseph Goebbels, being the minister of propaganda, knew what words to use and how to use them to convince the German people that the Jews needed to be eradicated and destroyed. And in fact, he was able to do that through films and radio and read news pamphlets. Convinced a significant number of the Germans to believe that the Jews needed to be eradicated off the face of the earth. He was a master of mind control, Joseph Goebbels, and propaganda. And he repeated this idea over and over again in films and all the rest of the media institutions. Repeated this idea over and over again to the German people so they begin to believe on a subconscious level that seeped into their conscious mind that, hey, we need to get rid. Yeah, they do need to get rid of these Jews because they're just destroying everything. They're hurting our economy. They're destroying everything. Get rid of them. Mind control. So going back to this whole idea, I believe that the political left and those in academia on the left continuously use these two comparisons to put the people under a state of mind control. It's mind manipulation without any evidence whatsoever to validate that claim. Now, John Cleese, as he said, he could have been here trolling, and it sounds like he was trolling. But, I mean, come on. Yeah, come on, man. Why would you make this? Say, oh, I'm just trolling. I'm just trolling. Hitler has 6 preferable qualities over Trump, and Trump only has 2. But you trolling. It's interesting that he said he's trolling when The left, the political left, and Democrats, as the article says, does the same thing, makes these crazy, unfounded accusations. Another thing that's interesting too, and I've said this before, and I'll keep repeating this until people see, is that it is, from my observations, in my experience, in my reading, it has always been the radical political left that have been involved in violent demonstrations and violent so-called protests. Okay, just recently, I think it was in New York on Christmas Day, we had the pro-Palestinian situation going on there that ended up being violent. Several of the protesters were arrested. These people that were involved in that particular protest were pro-left. They were from the left. I know people don't like that, but it is what it is. I'm not attacking everyone. As I said before, I'm not attacking everyone. But the ones that are in it, I'm telling them. I'm exposing them, okay? I think this is mind control. That's what I think it is. I think it's mind control. I think it's mind manipulation. And that's why the political left continuously pushes this, because they don't have anything else to go by. They really don't. I mean, you know, they really don't. They really don't have much else to go by. All they have is this idea that he's another Hitler. But in reality, if he was to become reelected, I highly doubt he's going to be another Hitler. Certain things he's not going to allow to happen, like pushing transgenderism on school kids. Yeah. And all this, I'm not going to go into the detail of it, or putting a wall up, building the wall to protect American citizens, or supporting law enforcement and putting criminals behind bars like they should be, true criminals, not people who disagree with the government, but and disagree with the political left, but true criminals who are out here killing and raping and robbing innocent people that they need to be put in jail. Yeah. See, that's detrimental to the radical political left. So they have to demonize those on the right. Okay, they have to demonize them. They're nothing but Nazis. They're nothing but another, Trump is nothing but another Hitler. But where's the comparisons? Who's committing the acts of violence? Where? I don't know of any, okay? Now, before I close this video, I wanted to just introduce you guys to a book that some of you may be familiar with. But if not familiar with the book, you may be familiar with a particular writer. He's an Indian guy, conservative Indian guy by the name of, and I hope I don't butcher his name, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza. He wrote a book in 2017 entitled The Big Lie. And I hope you guys can see this light is shining on here. And at the bottom it says, Exposing the Nazi Roots of the American Left. Look at that, the big lie, right? But what is the big lie that he argues in his book? The big lie is exposing the Nazi roots of the American left. And what he argues in his book is that it is the American left that's more in line to the Nazi ideology than they claim that are the conservatives and the right. Let me read you a quick excerpt from this book. Okay. He says here on page 212, let me just read you this real quick here. He says, Marxism and fascism are, as we have seen, quite close. They are kindred collectivist ideologies of the left. Their common enemy is, get this, of course, free markets and their various institutions of the private sector, including the church and the traditional family. Wow, because that is how fascism is. It's against the traditional family and the church. Fascism doesn't support the traditional family. Fascism doesn't support the traditional church and the traditional family. They're against it. Sounds like the left, right? Marxism and fascism both sought to get rid of capitalism and remake the social order. So did Marcuse, Adorno, and the Frankfurt School. Right there. Now, I highly suggest you guys purchase that book or rent it or whatever. It's a great book, and this argument really substantiates his belief that it is the political left that's more in line with Nazism and not the right. And he really breaks that down in the book. So, yeah, it's just crazy what these people are doing. And I find it funny that this so-called legendary comedian would say these kind of things, okay? But yeah, I mean, maybe he's trolling, maybe not. But whatever the case may be, whether he's doing it directly or indirectly, is all, in my opinion, designed to affect people on a subconscious level without any empirical evidence whatsoever to prove it. That's my word on it. What do you guys think about this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all, and see you again.